So we've all had 1 week of our math unit, the addition and subtraction. So we mapped out our sequence of teaching, and we mapped out the things that, based on the standards, what we thought we should teach in what order. So this meeting is basically to come together and to look at our data and see if we still feel that that sequence of teaching is right, and also to reflect on some of the strategies that we've put up, because there's some pretty advanced strategies, and I know that based on what the data that I've got back, I'm sort of wondering
if they're too hard.
Yeah, if I'm going to get there.
Some will get there.
So what were your general findings? Has anyone found any strategies that kids can do? What's your baseline? Like, where are you starting off?
Counting on.
I was just going to say that.
There's a lot that were just
Some of them are doing it and not even well, but they're doing it, and they're a little all over it. But that's the bottom.
Counting on?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first did this one, this is my subtraction pile. But when I did addition, when they came up with their own addition problems, every box was either I did it with tally marks or I used my fingers. They actually wrote I used my fingers on one hand. I used fingers on both hands. Like, okay then, all right. So they didn't have the vocabulary or anything else to
Yeah, they didn't have the vocabulary, but also, they didn't know what to call what they were doing. Like, they couldn't articulate it, which is different. Yeah, which is different to what I found when I did the gloss. I found with the gloss they could. I felt different about it actually. Whether or not it was the writing as opposed to speaking. You know what I mean? Because their writing skills are very low.
It's actually very funny you say that, because I felt that exactly the same thing. On their gloss, their levels seem to be higher than what I'm getting, and in practice, what they're doing is not as advanced as their gloss, even though their gloss actually, a lot of it was quite simplistic. But I had a lot of that as well, and also with this one, with the phone numbers, I got literally counting, but even starting, but counting 9.
Yeah.
So even not even starting at 9, not even going 9, 10, I didn't have anyone making number bonds without me suggesting it. I said, oh,
yes, I found that too.
It's like, can you make a 10? No, and most people were literally, very few people rearranged the numbers in any way. They just took this in that order, and even when I said, oh, you can jumble up those numbers in any way you want, and cross them out, and even with like feeding them that,
Plus they were adding them in
didn't do
2
it.
digits. They were going like 13 plus 80 plus 42 plus 30.
Yeah.
And they were just not understanding.
But I had no doubles, and even if I said, so can you find any doubles, and what would that be? None of that. I actually got tons of what you've got there, tally marks, and then just counting on your fingers, and then writing the answer, and not wanting, and I said, oh, well, how did you do that? Like, Kenneth was a prime example. He did it all, and then I said to him, so how did you do that? And he was like, I just figured it out in my head.
I got a lot of them.
Yeah. And I said, how did you figure it out? And he's like, I was just counting on. And you could just see them, like, don't interrupt me whilst I'm counting.
Just start all over.
Yeah.
I tried putting the strategies out on the tables, just a blind chop without having talked about them at all, just to see if the numbers sparked any ideas. And counting on was okay. Skip counting was not a problem. They can explain it, and then they attempted to write it out, and they did a good job. But number bonds to 10, it's difficult. Doubling and halving, they're able to explain it, but you have to prompt them for them to give you an example, because they can't. Not all of mine can give you that
vocabulary. Making 10, you can make 10 to make 10. You take 2 numbers and add it together.
And you make 10, just get 10.
But what you said as well with skip counting is they're incredible at skip counting. They could skip count till the cows come home.
Yeah.
Like, they're just so good at that.
And they did last year a lot of just knowing what a number means by counting it in ones at the beginning for place value. They did a lot of that.
With the skip counting, I found, yes, they can skip count, but they actually can't, they don't understand it. So when they can't actually write it down and apply anything to it that shows a deep understanding of what it is, if you know what I mean. So it's just like this kind of rote thing that they do, but yeah, really having a deep understanding of what it means. I don't think that there's that theory.
Maybe there wasn't enough problems though.
I tried like
real life problems.
Yeah.
I think they're not applying it.
Yeah.
Does the central idea and lines of inquiry still fit there? Like with what you're...
I think so.
I think, yeah.
It's pretty I mean, your findings are pretty consistent though, which is, you know, something, isn't it? That they haven't got it.
I think it is. I think we just have to start at a lower place than what we thought we did. But that's okay. But there's also kids who have got some good strategies. There's not as many as we thought there would be.
Yeah.
So
Plus the vocab.
and it's the vocab, but it's the naming of the strategies. It's being able to explain what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because then I had some kids who didn't use their fingers and who didn't count back.
Yeah.
But that's all that they could. They just wrote, "Oh, I just use my fingers." I was like, "I saw you use your fingers." They were like, "I don't know how to explain that." So I just wrote, "I just use my fingers."
Yeah, they use the easiest way to explain it on paper.
Yeah.
And they might not know that they're doing that strategy.
Yeah.
But you know, I have a lot of kids saying, I'm using my strategies. And then they say, well, which strategy? Just my strategies. I just decide, you know, as if that's like, you know, the way of saying, like, I'm doing something in my head, but I can't explain what it is. It's just, you know, just my strategies.
So maybe you need to break that word down.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Yeah. And talk about, you know, like in games, there's, you know, like lots of different things have strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good they're using the language, but we need to get the
Naming, you know, naming these are our strategies. So it's naming what is counting, what is skip counting, what is doubling, what is 100.
Yeah.
Might be good. Do some videos or something with the kids explaining what it is.
You could even have just something as simple as a mind map with strategies in the middle and 4 different strategies are split up so they know they can see that they're different.
Always explaining is, you know, explaining to someone.
Yeah.
Having to explain it to someone helps you to really understand it.
Yeah. Even as a
Articulate.
Yeah.
I would, yeah.
with the little house.
Yes.
I'd
They got
love,
it with the parents.
I'd love to highlight what you did, Tanya, because it just worked so well. So Tanya put on these 3 different visible thinking slides, and my kids just immediately got all of those things instantly. So the first one that we did was knowing about numbers that equal 10 helps me to know about numbers that equal 100 or 1,000. And by the end of it, they all got it. Like, some of mine got it immediately, some of them got it, you know, after like having seen what other people were doing. But they could all explain, you know, how knowing that, you know, if I know 5 plus 5 makes 10, then I know that 50 plus 50 makes 100 and 500, and then they just kept going and going. So that, for me, was like brilliant here, yeah. And then they showed it in lots of different ways.
They came up with the examples and everything. Yeah.
So that was great for that. And then the
They do
next
have
one was fact families, because they had this misconception that a fact family had to make 10. Whereas that's not the point of a fact. Like, you can have a fact family to 10, but I mean, in fact, you know. So here it said, oh, the numbers 8, 5, and 13 do not belong to a fact family. And then here I've got this kid who's like, well, 8, if it's with 2, can make 10, so that can be a fact family. 5, if it's with, you know, it was really funny. And then he changed, so like his thinking changed when he realised that, you know, 8 plus 5 makes 13, and you can do it vice versa.
A good thing that I do with those is I get them to do all this support, and then I pair them up with another student and they talk about it, and they go, oh, and then they can change their thinking. And we were talking about when they change their thinking, do it in a different colour or write 1,
or
2.
1, 2. Yeah. So here this one was not sure, and then they disagreed, and we've got, like, we put out post-it notes and like a little, I agree, I'm not sure, I disagree. And then they can move their post-it note with their name as they change their thinking, like, oh wow, someone's changed their thinking. You know?
Really celebrating the change of thinking. because, and just saying, look, you know, if you're moving your name or you're changing your thinking, then you're learning and you're thinking, or you know, you're listening to other people and you're reflecting on what you've heard, or you're looking at different perspectives, or you know.
And even if you've got that out there and it's got like their names, and then halfway through the kind of lesson, I saw it when I was in Melbourne, like this child just got up while I was talking and went up to the board and moved their name. All of a sudden it would click, and he was like, oh, that's not the way it should be right. Yeah, and then at the end of the lesson she went back to it. And it was that celebrating, changing everything, making a mistake.
Yeah.
Or just not knowing.
And then this was another one, you know, which there's different. Tanya put down different strategies: connect, extend, challenge. But even I think because what we got from this was that they had no real confidence in explaining. I think the more of these that we can do, like the more visible thinking, the more that they have to answer these. What new ideas do you have? How can you extend your thinking? You know, like I think the more we do that, and the more we get them to actually try and explain what they're thinking. Yeah, I think this is, and then here they're all making these realizations and these connections on their own. Like it was so brilliant, Tanya. Like really.
And
good.
those ones work really well when you put them in groups as well, because they have these conversations and they're talking to each other in kids speak, and hopefully they're saying things that are right, or but even if they're not, they're having that kind of discussion about, well, that's not right because blah blah blah. So the deep understanding actually comes in from those conversations that they have as well. Just being able to share their thinking. And it makes, you know, it's connect light bulb moments.
Yeah. So I think, like, I know I popped into Tanya's room and we said, you know, rather than doing like an assessment where we're saying, oh, this person doesn't know that, if we have like a tick list with the idea of what can they do, and just ticking it off so that you can see how far up they are.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't got through that far with mine, but like bonds to 10, like we've gone back to basics. Yeah, and I've still got Lydia and Tom are still like Tommy and the is all like 5 + 6 makes 10. So there's even like this, and Olivia has to count up to tell you. So if you say, what do I add to 6 to make 10? She's still on the go. And sometimes so you know, like that is where they're at. Fact families that most of them are secure now. There's a couple who's still counting on. So I just literally took all the strategies and in the same order just put them in a grid.
That's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyone else have an idea?
I took those ideas and I went to the First Steps book to look up games for each one, and then I'm trying to put it on the slides, but then it'll be the heading now, like near doubles, and it will be for those kids that have, but it will be a game for those kids that can do doubles but not near doubles.
Right. You've been really good with your games.
I'll try to get those going on the slides.
Could you do something like like you've got children not knowing it, could you each take a strategy and then send the different children to different things?
That's
so if you
idea.
have if you can teach at the same time, so Tanya, you take the counting on, so all the children who haven't got that go to you, and the children who need the near doubles, you could split them up like that if that's what they need, like an intense focus kind of thing.
Yeah, and we do those mini
confidence.
lesson things,
Yeah.
I think, you know, that kind of just in time teaching as well.
Yeah, just in time teaching.
Yeah. It'll be harder to do that because our next unit's coming up, which is all how we express ourselves and all of those.
Yeah.
So
We're shuffling, we're kind of changing up
There's
the
a lot.
timetables a lot.
there's shuffle for that already. So it's definitely a possibility, but it requires more thought.
I think the really important thing is to try and keep trying to look for misconceptions.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to give them stuff that you know that they're going to be able to give you the right answer. You want to really trick them a little bit so that, you know, like with one of my kids, we did that fact family thing with the houses yesterday, and you know, Cooper, he could tell me what a fact family was. You know, these numbers that equal another number, you know, add them together and equal a number. And then he was just putting this random numbers in there. what are you doing? This number equals these two numbers equal this number. I was like, yes, they do. You've totally missed the boat. Oh my god, you know. So you got to go back. So
Yeah,
I feel like that
and the ones you really think have it don't.
yeah. So you have to keep trying to trick them, so that you know, because it's the misconceptions that stop them from making connections.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
It's all about those connections, and they can only make the connections when they've got it.
So I actually use this as a tool just to see if they genuinely understood fact families after we had done practice, like fluency practice, and tried it in different ways. So from this, I know who genuinely doesn't understand it yet, but most of them have got it now. I used it as like an exit ticket.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. Because for mine, the language for a lot of them isn't there just because a lot of them are learning English. Yeah. But I've had Jin Hung change his mind. He went and changed it. He's like, well, he circled all 3 at one point, and then went back. He's like, well, no, I disagree. I know this, and went back. So
Yeah, it's good language to learn too, that I agree or I disagree. It's that discussion language.
I think for this unit with my kids, I'd like to plan a math talk, like anchor chart for them to look at and take from it, because for my class, talking with one another about their thinking in math is very difficult. They're not confident in that or sharing their ideas in math yet.
I wonder if, you know, I'm just kind of thinking the things that I'm going to do in terms of the strategies is getting kids to actually make little iMovies to be able to show and kind of explain and just have them on the slides so that you can say, oh, you know, let's go back and have a look at what so-and-so said about.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
can see the
making
child
tea.
to be like, oh, we're going to get this one.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, have a reference.
That's a really.
Yeah, and it's fun. You know, then it makes them engage really with,
Yeah.
make it with someone that doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good
So,
idea.
but yeah, I think it gave us a lot of information. And
It did.
yeah, just remembering
In
to
more
really.
ways than one.
And I actually think it'd be really great at the end of the unit to give them all those 6 provocations again, and then just see, okay, now what's the difference? Because, you know, this we get a lot of information from again, like even like the telephone number one. Well done for bringing everything. This one, you know, this was telling. Like, but mine all got that immediately. Actually, very very quick to get how to place their numbers and the idea that
That's good.
your units and your tens, and they took that from place value, so they're very quick at making connections, and they linked it
did a lot of
straight
that
back to
one.
our place value unit. Yeah,
They did a
Like,
lot of
what-
rocket place value.
yeah, and they got it immediately. They're like, well, those 2 are 1s, and that's a 10. So obviously, I want to put my highest number in the 10s.
Yeah.
Like, that for me was great. I think, wow,
Great.
yeah.
So, looking at the unit then,
Yes, we want to see if it's.
we just we'll have a look at that running order in terms of
Protected by the government.
what goes first next.
So
Oh, yeah.
our strategies that we had written down was we said
Difference of understanding.
odd and even first. Now I haven't even touched on odd and even yet, actually. Have
Well,
you?
the number bonds have been. I don't think we thought that we were going to have to spend so much time on the number bonds.
No, and they're not fluent
No.
yet either. And so until they're able to make number bonds and then like making 10.
I think it's really,
And
really
fast.
important to let the parents know the kids that can't do that.
Yeah.
Really important.
To
And then give them some dice games at
Yeah.
home to play, because parents will take it seriously. Last year I did that and it was just sort of straight away. You can't keep doing it for every lesson. You've actually got to get the momentum going, because it's just going to drag them way behind. So if you've got kids that don't know it,
Yeah.
get the parents onto it and let them know. And
Do
even
you
just
have like a
photocopying.
pack that you gave them last year?
I just told them, I actually gave them dice, and I said, I want you to do these things. Mine was all really about number sense. So I would say things like, when you're reading a book, get them to open up to page 57, or get them to open up to page blah, 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 because they didn't know the sequence of numbers and things like that. Just really practical, doable, 5-minute no pressure, no kind of like not worksheets or anything like that, just fun stuff. Just completely repetitious.
Yeah.
So things like roller dice and first person to say what, like that making 10, what's the number that makes 10?
Yeah.
Or, fingers are really, really important. Get them
Yes.
to look at their fingers
Yeah.
so that they can visualise their fingers in their heads. So, that's just so easy. Think about 4, how many more have you got to make 6? And actually say to mum and dad, thinking time is really important. It's not about doing it quickly, it's about having a strategy to get the answer. So,
Well, there's some things we want them to know. Like, I want them to know that 4 plus 6 makes 10.
yeah, but if they
without
don't know
having
it,
to go.
if they don't know it though, what they need is that strategy. Look at your fingers.
Yeah.
I'm going to put 4 down. How many have I got left? And when they move on, the next step from that is to do it in your head, and you're going to need time to do that. So they're going to have to think about their fingers.
Yeah.
It takes time. It's not easy for those kids who can't visualise that.
Yeah.
So just letting parents know that it's not about doing it quickly. It's about getting the answer. It's about having strategy. It's about encouraging the strategy.
What do you say to those parents who are convinced that it is about doing it quickly?
I just find that my very firm and very, how I can come across quite strong and just be
There's
strong.
no debating with Tanya.
Well, because for me, sometimes I guess people don't take me seriously.
No, but
I would probably ask them why they think
about
that.
but until they master the skill.
I'd probably ask them why they think that. What makes you think that is better?
Oh yeah.
And
So,
then
well, it's
if you've
not.
got, I don't know. So maybe it's not working.
Well, it's actually not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually that
That's
strategy
my
is not
biggest
working.
thing.
So we need
Yeah.
to go down different tracks
That's a
that
good-
I know and I've seen
You
work.
can say it diplomatically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what's the diplomatic way of
It doesn't work.
So, only because we've hit time, just so that we're moving forward, what we've said is we're gonna try and maybe keep track of where we're going up to, work through these strategies and see, maybe we'll get up to the more advanced ones, maybe we won't, just see what happens.
Yeah.
So keep working through. Any misconceptions that we see, put them on a slide and you can even just copy and paste any of Tanya's visible thinking, and then actually, if you've got a misconception in your class, it's probably
Yeah.
a common misconception in some of ours, because what we found is our levels are all very similar.
Yeah.
So don't ignore, if you've spotted a misconception, share it out, put it on a slide, copy one of those visible thinking templates, so that we can all then go, I wonder if someone from my class thinks that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good way forward. And getting the parents on board for those kids. I wanted us to have a quick look at the last line of inquiry, because it was in red. And Tamara said to me, was there a reason it was in red?
I think it was much.
It was.
Numbers helps us to understand.
What did we think about this
Value of
one?
numbers. The value
What does
of
that mean?
numbers.
Yeah, what do you mean by the value?
And that was exactly what we were talking about. We were talking about applying place value to addition.
Oh,
how much
Like
does
now I get it.
what does a number mean?
Value
The
of
value of it?
Understanding the place value of a number.
Oh, sure.
Do you know what I mean? So exactly the 4 plus 6 makes 10, so 40 plus 60 equals 100.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe spell it out by saying.
Isn't that a
so,
mental strategy though? The value of numbers helps us to understand it.
It kind of is.
What are our
Standards.
standards?
Yeah.
But it's a strategy.
Yeah, I think that's a strategy, that last one.
Yeah.
Demonstrate efficient procedures.
So if
What about because it is mental strategies, but it's also about communicating. So
Which is
communication
struggling
comes,
with.
that's really struggling with it. Communication comes in a few different ways. Verbal, visual,
so So an inquiry into how we communicate our thinking.
How we,
So
How we-
just
Yeah, 'cause
how we
then-
communicate our
How we-
math thinking. I thought let's give ourselves just 5 minutes and then end a couple of minutes early, just in finishing our reflection because we don't really want this to drag on. And
I
then
get it.
yeah, well we started it, but now that we've sort of come to the end of it, I mean it ends tomorrow. I thought if we just spend another 5 minutes boshing out some reflections, then I'll copy and paste it into the unit, and then we're reflected.
And this is the,
This is so it's the end of unit reflection.
yeah.
Um,
I think I went back.
so do you want me to share it with you again as soon as you have your computer back?
Yeah.
If I share it with you right now, it'll
Thank
come on
you.
more promptly.
Thank you.
And Maddie,
Yeah.
please add your ideas on here as well.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Because you've been in as well. Hey, you just walked into the last 5 minutes.
That's what I didn't need to be here for math, so that's why I figured come back for the ending. Because my talking haters.
So what we're doing, Monica, we're just giving ourselves 5 minutes to finalise some of our reflections now that we're nearer finished on our unit. Yeah, so just if you go down, there's another document. There's a link in the meeting minutes. Go down.
That's where we were last week.
Yeah. How's this unit gone?
Pretty good. Well, when your kids don't want to clean up and want to keep going, it means
That's a
it's
good
going
sign.
pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, they're so into it. So maybe look at the boxes where there's not a lot, where they're a bit sparse.
It's at the very bottom of the agenda, yeah?
I don't know what I am. I'm just adding a different colour.
Yeah, it's just the colours don't really matter, just go now.
I did it.
I think you were orange last week, Susan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. I was just trying to check which one I was green.
Except this thing is so stupid.
Reflecting. Just in the last 5 minutes of our meeting.
Yeah. Just been with Gene.
Gene, I know, he's amazing. The brain.
But he was way out over here, and then, oh no.
It's correcting himself and seeing things.
Yeah,
And, oh no,
amazing.
that isn't what I thought I saw. And
He's extremely reflective. Yeah.
Is
But
that
you just need to get him, when he's in the flow,
yeah,
he's unstoppable.
yeah.
He's incredible.
But then so like, we're working on the floor, and he'd be like, oh yeah, look at that. And then he goes, oh,
And change his position.
difficult.
You know why I ended up loving that kid?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's the ones that drive you the most crazy that you end up. I actually missed him at the start of this year in a funny kind of way. Not that much, but
Your other friend is so grown up compared.
I miss the also what he says. Oh yeah, it's, you know, the way that he sees things.
He comes out with vocabulary sometimes that I don't know. I don't think he got it from Yale. He's picked it up somewhere. You know, we'll ask for what's a better word than happy. We can use happy all the time, and they'll come out with ecstatic or something like that.
His desire to learn is incredible. He is hungry for knowledge, and you teach him something, and he will try and use it, and that's, you know, perfect in a sense, perfect student. But he just
He
needs-
processes things differently.
He
than
needs
other
a
people
different.
Well, I used to call
He
him
was good in
genius.
the army.
Genius.
He needs those really, really strong boundaries, unfortunately, and that's not always a fun way to teach.
Yeah.
Not a fun way to teach.
Definitely not there.
Yeah, but he's cool.
It's very lovable.
At times, and you know, when he was trying to kick the window in the first day we can school up, and I'm going to get you, boy, and I'm going to shake you until you. That's the thing.
So one last little thing was Monica and I were talking about our research projects and talking about, like, I mean, we're at the point now where they're all working on their visuals. They'll have their visual and their report ready by tomorrow. So do we want to set up something where if there's any classes who are interested in sharing their discoveries, we could maybe do like Friday afternoon, have some kind of
Like they have their
class
own look for learning or look for connections or change.
Oh,
And I
look for connections
suggested
is a
like
good
a mini book. So then what we're hoping, we were both saying like if so you have a student working on the Venus flytrap and other strange plants, and I have a student who's she was so into all the strange plants she couldn't choose just one, but she definitely has that in her research, and just hoping that they're going to make that connection. What else did you find out? I didn't get to that yet, or
So,
yeah.
so how would it look like? How?
So we were thinking just a booklet, weren't we? Where we had said, like, you know,
carry it with
whose
them.
project did you connect with yours and why? Like, just super simple.
Yeah.
And then they have to explain that, and then can you find another project that connects with yours
Yeah.
and how?
Okay.
You know, just that they're making
And
those.
wander around all the.
Yeah.
Could we just have a little walk around, like just walk around and have a look, and then maybe just say to them, go and stand next to somebody that connects with what you've been finding out about, so that it's actually a physical position, and then give them a chance to talk about it, and then
we'll talk about everything you know about.
give them a time to then write some things down. Okay, have another look around, go and stand next to someone else that you connect with. Just otherwise, it's a bit too abstract for someone like us.
Yeah.
And you're going to give them some guidance on what those connections might look like,
Yeah.
or leave it very open first.
Well, we can do connections within our own classroom first as
Right.
a modeled one.
Right.
So we were thinking, we were saying maybe like 2A and B go visit 2C and D first,
Mm-hmm.
and then swap it over, 2C and D come and visit 2A and B. You know, something like that. But
Yeah.
if you model it in your classroom first, so you're right, so they know.
You could do it as also a marketplace style, so you're not sending everybody at once to get overwhelming too. Like if they have a group and they have to come back and teach them. But I don't know if you could, how you would.
We could separate, we could do half and half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you do everyone at the same time, then people are going to be going to stations where that person's at a different station now anyway. So you're going to have to do
2A and
2 at a
2B
time like
going
that,
to
so they're
visit.
staying with that
Yeah.
person.
Or we could just say half of, like the first half of everyone on your register goes out first, and then the second half of everyone on your register goes out next.
To the other class, and the other
Yeah.
class is
Any
stationary.
class they want, yeah.
And that second one, who do you connect with? That might be that someone else connects with you. You know what I mean? Like, who connected with you?
Yeah.
Which, that's really kind of gratifying as well. I mean,
They're excited and promoting that, right?
We're talking about connections, not just, she was learning about plants,
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
learning about plants, but more, well, I was learning
Doesn't have
about
to be.
growth, or
Yeah.
like all sorts of different concepts,
Yeah.
and ways to connect. I was wondering, I might have missed it because you might have already said that this is how it's going to work, but what about if the person is not there the first time that they go and look at what they've been working on? Because there's some kind of product, right? This booklet idea. So what about if they go and actually really have to look into the work first and record their connections? And then there's another chance where they then go and make that personal connection.
just on top of that, I wonder if there's no one there, there's a piece of paper, or you have a post-it note,
Yeah.
and you write a word that you think, one word, like growth, like environment,
That's the
Yeah.
word that
like
connects.
whatever. They may not
Habitat,
have the
food, yeah.
vocabulary. One word,
Yeah.
food, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's going to be different levels of kids. Maybe that's something that we could do.
The good thing is we can anticipate some of what it might be, but also they'll make connections we never thought of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But just putting the focus on the actual content rather than the social bit first might be an interesting
So
approach.
gallery walkish.
Yeah, and then they go back and make those face-to-face personal.
You're right as well, because they're just going to go to their friends as well, aren't they?
They
Their
do
friends
tend
standing
to,
there, they're going to go, oh, I'm going to see my friend.
and they tend to ignore
We do that
people as
too.
well.
So maybe
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
the
we do.
first time, everybody's walking around.
Yeah.
First weekend.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Just go to.
You could probably, I don't know what it would be, whether it would be beneficial, but you could probably make quite an interesting visual representation of that joined. You could have
which is what I
one
was trying
project
to
joined with
do.
another project and the
Yeah.
word that joins them
Like a web.
written on there. Yeah, you could have a chain of all these things connected
Great.
together, like
That
a
is-
breaking it here or a breaking it there.
Out on basketball court.
But yeah, or yeah.
Just do it with a big ball of yarn.
You could do the
I did it with
people.
grade 3s, it got very tangled, just in one class, but
Tangled
Yeah, you
is
can
how I
have,
went
those are
with
good for
learning.
conversations, but
So,
where's the flow?
when do we want to do this? Tomorrow afternoon, period 7 and 8?
Yeah.
Give ourselves period 6 to set it up.
Yeah.
And then we'll obviously need to have a chat tomorrow morning to figure out.
I've got music.
Oh, okay, so 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Is maybe we can set it up before.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
No problem.
And
It
if
could be,
they're
I'd like to talk to this person more about,
Yeah.
or I'd like to ask this person about, sort of different ways also, and they can go back and
Yeah.
reconnect in a way that's meaningful.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Our time is